Hi everyone, Flaming Footy here and welcome back to a new video on the channel. Today guys, I'm going to be going through and reacting to my AFL 2023 season predictions. This is always a very interesting video, looking back at what predictions I made at the start of the year, and it'll be interesting to see how they turned out. So in this video I'm going to be going ahead and reacting. While the video is playing, I will be quiet so you guys can hear what I do say, but let's just go ahead and start. And yeah, see what happens.
Alright, so I do just want to go ahead and let you guys all know this is my opinion. Let's go ahead, hop right into the video. In 18th position, I do have the Hawks. And
fair call, solid call, the Hawks in 18th. They did axe their list out last year, got rid of lots of talent. Mitchell, Gunston, O'Meara, just a few names to move. In fact, Gunston might move back to the Hawks potentially. But anyway, though, that's not a part of this video. The Hawks in 18th, I do think is a very fair call, but a young list, so they actually did quite a lot. They did finish in 16th, so that's not a bad call at all, not a bad call to start. But yeah, Hawks in 18th, I'm not overly miserable with that one. Alright, now to 17th.
So in at 17th, they've got the GWS Giants. Showed some real promise against the Gold Coast Suns in their practice match that they played against them. They're young.
The practice match against the Suns was a really good game, actually. The Giants, they really did go quite far, and at times it looked like they're going to finish inside the bottom four, and most of us would have had this call correct. A lot of people had the Giants inside the bottom four, but their rise later on in the year, winning lots of games, got them into 7th, and they got through to a prelim final, which nobody would have expected at the start of the year. So this one is definitely quite a disappointing call. Alright, 16th.
In at 16, got North Melbourne, see them rising up this year. Some of their additions, Tucker, Logue, Sheasel, Wardlaw through trade and draft period were good. Jason Horn.
Look, North in 16th isn't a horrible call either. They finished in 17th, and look, they did actually show a bit more promise. They were competitive in a couple games. They played well against the Swans, and they were competitive in quite a few games against Melbourne and Blunston, well, at Blunston, just to name a couple. So it was definitely a stride forward for North Melbourne. Wardlaw, Sheasel looked really good, as I said. Logan, Tucker, they weren't the greatest of inclusions. They've gotten an assistance package from the AFL. They've got a bounty of first-round draft picks at the moment. Going to try and push up for pick number 1. But look, North in 16th, I'm not going to say that's a horrible call either. Now to 15th.
Now to the last team in the bottom 4. I have West Coast finishing in 15th position. I think their younger players are going to really step up their game.
West Coast in 15th. Again, they're in the bottom 4 in this prediction, so it's not horrible bad, but they were the worst side in the competition this year. I did say, apparently, in this video that I thought the younger players were going to play an important role, and Jimby and Hewitt were some pretty decent additions to the draft, and their older players, especially Kelly, played really well. But yeah, a couple of the other older players didn't quite play well. Again, they got hit with injuries and all that, but yeah, they did get beaten by a lot on multiple occasions. 14th.
Now, 14th got the Bombers. I think they'll probably be able to maybe claim a couple of upset wins this year at Marvel. I feel like Brad Scott, with his game plan, a couple of changes for some of their stuff.
They played better Essendon this year. They did rise up the ladder to 11th, I think it was, in the end, and they were competitive for finals for most of the year. They sat in the 8th for quite a few rounds of the year as well. At some stage, they looked like they were going to actually make finals and potentially win a final. Not to be in the end. Their last 2 rounds were horrible. They got beaten by 120-something against the Giants and lost by 70 to the Pies. But aside from the last few rounds, because again, their games against North and West Coast weren't brilliant either, but aside from their last 5 rounds of the year or something, they actually played pretty well for most of the year. So I think Essendon potentially could have another step forward next year. They've already added through the trade period as well. 13th.
Now in the 13th, I have St Kilda, and I still do see them winning up to 10 games this year. They could win as low as 7 and finish 13th, or win as much as 10 and finish 13th, I reckon. I feel like this year for the Saints, I feel like they're going to be able to definitely claim a couple of upset wins. I think they...
Well, a couple of upset wins this year, they most certainly did do. Wins that nobody did expect them to get, they did get. So that's not a bad little mini tip there from me. But ladder position 13th, they finished 6th. They did lose an elimination final. Their strong starts of the year really did help them go far. If they had only won 5 of their first 10 games, they probably would have ended up finishing about 13th on the ladder. But because they won so many of their early games, that's what propelled them to just hang on and snare a spot in the 8. They did go back to being alright towards the end of the year as well, but through that middle period of the year, things did look like it wasn't going great, but the start of the year is what got them into such a high position. Now to 12th.
Now, this is a bit of a big call. Gold Coast in the 12th, in my opinion. This is a bit of a...
I don't think I need to watch much more about this. Big call, and in the end, I mean, they finished 15th, so big call finishing them in 12th. I think that's fair enough. Look, Gold Coast, it wasn't a great year. They were in finals contention for some of the year, but in the end, they just did fall away late. Of course, they sacked Stuart Dew, but look, I can't say this was an overly brilliant year from Gold Coast. There's not a whole heap to be happy about, apart from the fact that they're going to be getting their 3 academy players. But yeah, aside from that, though, they did finish inside the bottom 4 in 15th, which wouldn't be a great result for them. Indeed, especially with the list that they've got, I'd definitely be expecting them to make some serious strides next year. Now to 11th.
In at 11th, I got the Adelaide Crows. Some would say good placement, some would say too low, some would say too high.
Good call here. The Crows finished 10th, and 11th is a very good position to have them in. I'm very happy with this call. Of course, the Crows, they were in finals contention for most of the year and arguably should have made finals based on that goal. That goal ruled not goal. But anyway, though, talking about ladder position, 11th, I think that's a really good one. They finished 10th, as I said. They did make some serious strides this year towards finals and probably will end up being there next year. This young list is taking them forward, and they are definitely going to be able to go places. And I think this year was definitely a step in the right direction. So their forward line is electric, 11th. Pretty happy with that one. Now to 10th.
Now on to 10th, the Western Bulldogs. I feel like they're going to be interesting to see this year as well. Some people have them making top 8, some people have them making top 4, some people have them finishing bottom 4, some people have them finishing down towards 12th, 13th.
This is a good one. The Dogs in 10th. A lot of people did have the Dogs in the top 8 or in the top 4, which normally every year they're kind of the team which you kind of go, they might not absolutely destroy the competition. They may, but they might not. They might just get into the top 8 like they do all the time somehow. But I put them in 10th, and they ended up dropping out of the 8 and finishing 9th due to not the best end of year, to say the least, especially losing to the Eagles. And then, I mean, they did beat the Cats, but it was half a VFL side almost running out on the park in Geelong in round 24. But anyway, though, the Dogs finished in 10th, and at times, I mean, it's a year of disappointment for the Western Bulldogs. There were many different opportunities, like rounds 11 and 12. They had an opportunity to make the top 4. They lost both those games, and they had quite a few opportunities in the year to finish top 4, let alone top 8, and they just didn't take them. Now to 9th.
I have Port Adelaide finishing in 9th this year. I feel like they'll just miss out on the finals.
Port Adelaide made some serious strides up ladder this year. They finished mid-range last year, in 2022. And in 2023, ended up finishing 4th or 3rd. I'm pretty sure it was actually 3rd. In the end, they finished 3rd. And they did that with, at times, they didn't really have much of a defence. And their forward line was decent, but not up there in A-grade quality. But look, Port Adelaide did a really good job utilising what they had. Of course, their midfield is a group of stars. Horne-Francis went to the power from North Melbourne. Rosie, Butters. Of course, we know their midfield is really good. Brownlow medalist Ollie Wines in there as well. So 9th, I think it was decent, probably a fair rating at the start of the year, but they did blow a lot of people's expectations and finish in the top 4. Now to the top 8.
The first team I have making the 8 is Carlton.
So I thought Carlton were going to make the 8. A lot of people thought Carlton were going to make the 8, and at the time, it looked like it didn't look like they were going to make the 8. They were sitting in 15th at one stage and ended up surging home to finish in 5th, which is a brilliant performance. I had them in 8th. I think that was a fair call. Not too far off the 5th position, but yeah, in the end, 8th. They had a good list, and at one point looked like they weren't going to make finals, and then they really came home strongly to finish in 5th, and they made a prelim final. Now to 7th.
Got Collingwood finishing 7th. We know last year what they did, won so many close games.
So I thought their luck wasn't going to be on their side this year for Collingwood. I can definitely see where this one came from. I just thought they weren't going to be lucky. I thought last year they'd won, in 2022, they'd won so many close games. People had them falling out of the 8. People had them sitting in the 8. I had them sitting in 7th. I thought was pretty fair because they had won a lot of close games in 2022, but in 2023 they were the dominant side of the competition. They sat up first for so long, and in the end, eventual premiers. Not a whole heap to say about this. This was a low placement. Now to 6th.
I've got Richmond finishing in 6th. Personally, I would have had them higher. However, I'm
lucky I didn't put them any higher than 6th. A lot of people had them in their top 4. I had them in 6th, which still isn't great. They finished 13th, so not too bad compared to what some other people did do. But 6th, still not the happiest with this. Of course, they had Taranto Hopper that came in. They've still got so many good players, so many good quality on their list. Damien Hardwick as the coach, he left after round 10 or 11 or something like that. But yeah, it just wasn't Richmond's year. Marvel Hoodoo continued on. And now Adam Uze is a coach. But yeah, 6th, not great. They did slide down the ladder this year. Now to 5th.
In 5th, I have Sydney. I feel like their performance against Carlton definitely did back up why they was.
So if you guys are wondering why I'm talking about other teams in this game, this was back at the pre-season time, which their performance against Carlton was a really good one in the pre-season game, for that matter of fact. But look, 5th for Sydney, they were the grand finalists in 2022, and some had them falling out, some had them finishing first, some had them winning the flag again. But I had them finishing in 5th. I thought they were still going to make the finals and relatively comfortably again, though they were one of the other sides that were in the bottom 4 at one stage and looked gone. But they managed to revive their season and just sneak home into the 8, even though they were very lucky to do it. Of course, that game versus Adelaide, the goal that wasn't a goal, only got them in. Otherwise, if Adelaide had won that game and they still had lost to the D's in round 24, they would have missed the 8 and finished 11th, 10th, 9th, not quite sure where, but they would have missed the 8. But I had them finishing in 5th, and it wasn't a great year for the Swans. They have stacked up over the trade period, though. It'll be interesting to see where they'll finish next year. Now to 4th.
On to the top 4. In 4th spot, got Fremantle.
That's not a great call. Fremantle had a horrible year this year. A lot of people expected them to finish inside the top 8. I had them finishing inside the top 4. I thought they could do a lot with their list. The addition of Luke Jackson was going to be a really good one, and I just thought that they'd be playing really well. And Will Brodie had a significant drop off this year as well, and some of the other players just weren't playing quite as well as what this prediction would have alluded to. And look, they finished in 14th in the end and played some impressive football towards the back end of the year. They were competitive against Port Adelaide, Brisbane, smashed the Eagles and got over the Hawks. So their last few rounds was something to at least have a little smile on the Dockers' faces. But aside from that, though, there were quite a few disappointing performances throughout the year. They still did get some really good wins, though, over the Cats and the Demons, but they were just losing some games which they probably were expecting to win, but did still pull a few upsets. But in terms of this prediction, not a great one. Now to 3rd.
In 3rd, I have Melbourne.
Not a bad call. Melbourne finished 4th, so another one that was just one ladder position off. And look, the D's, they went out in straight sets again, which obviously isn't their finest. But again, I think this is a pretty decent call. They finished in 4th, as I said, and played some pretty good footy throughout the year. I don't have a whole heap to say about this one because I'm pretty happy with this one. Hopefully can get one correct towards the top 2. But Melbourne in 3rd is definitely not a bad call at all. That's a pretty good one. Here's 2nd.
Got the Cats in 2nd. I feel like
the Cats had a huge drop off this year. They went from winning the premiership last year to finishing in 12th this year. And they're an ageing list. It was always going to happen. But the year after they won a premiership, I didn't think that was going to be the year it was going to happen. I thought it might have been happening potentially next year. I didn't think it was going to be this year, especially after they just won a flag. Of course, the Joel Selwood left, which is a huge hole. And even though you can hype up players and think they'll be able to replace him, nobody is as good as Joel Selwood, or nobody will fill that role perfectly like Joel Selwood did. And it might be just the start of, not necessarily a rebuild, but a bit of a refresh, inject a bit of youth into this list. Because round 24 was a very good, evident example of what the future could look like for Geelong, which wasn't great. But yeah, again, they were going to have a fall off eventually. It was just when, which didn't think it was going to be this year, like most. And here is 1st.
Which that leaves us with 1st. The minor premiers for 2023, I predict, will be Brisbane.
Good call here. Very good call. They finished 2nd in the end. They made the grand final and fell short 4 points off winning it. The Lions, very good year this year. They went undefeated at the Gabba And yeah, it was a brilliant performance from season 2023. It was a brilliant performance from the Lions. MCG, still a little bit of work to improve on there. They got close to D's in a game they should have won. They lost disappointingly to the Hawks and had a couple of other disappointing games, especially at the Adelaide Oval against both the Crows and Port. They weren't great in either. But aside from that, though, it was a very good season for the Lions. And yeah, as I said, 4 points off winning the flag. So now to our awards. Let's see how this went.
My rising star winner for this year is going to be Will Ashcroft from the Richmond.
Will Ashcroft, not a bad call. Harry Sheasel ended up winning it, which I think he was a deserving winner in the end. Harry Sheasel had a ripper year. He had a brilliant year. He was really good, Harry Sheasel. Will Ashcroft, he played a pretty good year as well. He was influential for the Lions. But yeah, Harry Sheasel was the winner, and I think he did deserve it. Really well done to Harry Sheasel. Coleman medal, Tom Lynch, and Tom Lynch has had an injury-riddled year, so there's not really a lot to say. He had an injury for most of the year, only played a few rounds. Not a great call here at all. Correct call. Lachie Neale won the Brownlow. This is a brilliant call. This is the only call I've gotten right for the whole video. Lachie Neale won his second Brownlow. And at the start of the year, I wasn't quite sure about this call. You've got Bontempelli and all that. Petrarca, who are widely tipped to win the Brownlow. But as I did predict Brisbane to finish first, this is a brilliant call with the Lions, Lachie Neale winning the Brownlow. Sensational call here. And that will wrap up this video. So, look, there was some pretty decent calls in there. I was pretty close with quite a few. And then Moy was off with some others. But yeah, and then awards, a couple like Ashcroft and Neale were decent shouts. Lynch, not a great shout at all, but did get the Brownlow medal winner correct, which is a brilliant call. But anyway, though, feel free to let me know how your season predictions went. I'd love to see how your season predictions went. Let me know in the comments section. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. See you guys and then miss another video on the channel. Thank you guys all so much. Bye everyone. Flame for you out.